Lehigh Valley International Airport is your ticket to fly safe. The Fly Safe with ABE program delivers a healthy travel environment from ticket counter to takeoff, because your safety is always our highest priority. These heightened safety protocols haven't changed the comfort, convenience, and connectivity when choosing ABE. Your neighborhood airport now offers flights to 15 destinations aboard Allegiant, American, Delta, and United. Land in the Sunshine State, the home of country music. Major cities of Atlanta, Charlotte, or Detroit. Or the newest route arrival, Washington, D.C. ABE delivers a first-class experience for all travelers, as amenities are available to ensure you the highest level of service. Visit flyabe.com. We'll see you for your next takeoff.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are, whatever time, to our game changers. I have thoroughly enjoyed this because we're really talking to so many incredible community leaders, people of such interest. And talk about a person of interest. One of the people I met most recently, I knew of, I had heard of, is my friend Ted Rosenberger. You notice I'll take liberties, Ted, and introduce you as my friend. You're an incredible guy with an incredible company, by the way, Virtue View Air Charters, and which is phenomenal. Why don't we just first, Ted, talk about your company, then we'll get into Ted and what you've contributed to this valley, which has been amazing, and you've had an amazing life. But thanks for being with us, Ted. By the way, Ted, this is all sponsored by our good friends at the Lehigh Valley International Airport, a great place. I'm so thankful I've been involved in that airport, and it's a great, great facility for this Lehigh Valley. Ted, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and but my latest, and this perhaps may be my last venture, since I enjoy it so much, is I started an aircraft charter company a number of years ago. And we started with a helicopter, added a beautiful King Air turboprop. In fact, I'm in the interior virtually of our King Air turboprop right now. And then this year we added a jet. So we have 3 aircraft. We're based at Allentown's Queen City Airport. We're the only FAA approved helicopter operator in the whole region. And we're also the only charter operator that operates a helicopter, a turboprop, and a jet, all under the same air carrier certificate. And we operate small, efficient aircraft that are able to get in and out of thousands of airports, large and small, throughout the country. And we specialize in getting both personal clients and business clients to wherever they need to go as efficiently as humanly possible. So
you know,
that's
Ted,
what we do.
in my business, meeting lots of entrepreneurs, lots of successful business people, to me, you fit the mold so much. You're a high energy guy. But I also want to make the point that when you say, the 3 planes that you had, the helicopter, and now you talked about buying the jet, it's not for the faint of heart, I would think. I would think jets aren't too inexpensive, and it takes a little bit of guts to reach your pocket and buy a jet, knowing that there's a market, but it's not chump change.
Well, I had the good fortune of having started a company, in 1994, I believe it was. I started a company called Target Software with another fellow from the area, Jim Gardner. And we ended up being pioneers in software that went on early mobile devices to automate pharmaceutical sales forces. And it turned out to be a great idea. And we grew the company, and then it was acquired in 2005 by a French public company. I stayed on for a few years as that company's CEO of North America. But like all entrepreneurs, it's tough to work for somebody else. And so ultimately, I decided to get back to controlling my own destiny. And,
two things on that, Ted. That was early on in the curve, as I recall, knowing both you and Jim. That was early on in this whole tech universe. So congratulations, kudos regarding that. Second piece is, you probably were in a shape where some people would just say, I can coast from here on in, but giving the high energy you're blessed with, you just had to keep rolling.
Yeah, well, I was 38 years old when my company was acquired. So, you can only play so much tennis and, spend so much time at the country clubs. And then, you want to feel productive again. And I put in my time on bunch of nonprofit boards, and but just really wanted something exciting but simple. And I had learned to be a pilot when I was 23 years old, and it was something that at the time I desperately, since I was kind of a workaholic, and I was writing the software myself in the early days, I desperately needed something to get me out of the office that was interesting enough that I could pursue other than sitting in front of a computer writing code all day. And so one of my clients was actually taking pilot flying lessons, and and I asked him about this, and I said, I grew up next to an airport, and I had an uncle who was a pilot, and something I've kind of always in the back of my mind thought I might want to do. So I actually enrolled in a class at LTRI-C to study for the written test, and then after the first class, I walked up to the instructor and said, how do you actually do the flying part? This is the academic part. And he's like, come to Slatington Airport this weekend and we'll give you your first lesson. And I said, okay. And I've been flying ever since. So it took me about a year to get my pilot's license, working part-time on it. And as soon as I finished my pilot's license, I bought an airplane, and I paid $23,000 for my first plane. It was a 1966 Beech Musketeer, just anything that would fly. And it's funny, I took my now husband, but my partner, who I was just dating at the time, I took him on a trip to Florida, and it took us 13 and a half hours. And at one point, we looked down and on Route 95, and the cars were going faster than us, even though we were flying. So, but as my economics improved over the years, I kept getting more and more ratings. I got my instrument rating, then my multi-engine rating, then my commercial rating. And I started buying larger and faster planes, and they became serious business tools that would allow me to visit more customers and get more done out of town in a day than all of my competitors. And it's one of the reasons that ultimately my first company was so successful that we ended up getting acquired, and I am here today as a result of it. So so I just always have seen the value of aviation. And so after took a few years off and made a few investments in other startups, I decided to I got into helicopters, by the way, when my company was first acquired. I decided to treat myself because I had always wanted to learn about rotorcraft. So I bought a brand new helicopter. That was part of the celebration of my company, my software company being acquired, and got my rotorcraft rating and also my commercial rotorcraft license. And well, you got to experience the joy of helicopter flight.
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't be a grader or a judge, but I'll tell you what, you really confidently handle that helicopter. It's something I can tell you love every minute of it. And
it's
being next
a
to
surreal.
I was fully confident.
It's funny. I've done thousands of flights. I have almost 6,000 hours of flight time now, and every time I get in these machines, it's just I'm just ear to ear smiles. I just love it. And it's funny, you forget, even as the pilot, you forget how great it is, even between flights. And I do it, all the time, sometimes 7, 8, 9 flights a week. And each time I get in, it's better than what I remember. So, and I'm,
Ted, with your new jet, how long would it take you and Kevin to get to Florida now?
Well, this jet is on the charter company, of course, so anybody can do this. But I was just down in Fort Lauderdale the other day, and it took about 3 hours and 5 minutes nonstop from Queen City to Fort Lauderdale. And then we got home with a little bit of a tailwind and 2:45. So, three-ish hours in the jet.
You said your first plane, the flight was what, 13 hours, did you tell me it took?
I'm sorry?
The first plane that you had, it took you how long to get
Yeah,
there?
13 hours to go to St. Pete, Florida. But, but anyway, yeah, so I, bought this helicopter and then decided to go through the process to get approved by the FAA to charter the helicopter initially, because I wanted to be able to take people back and forth to New York and do some more and start to maybe make some money using the aircraft. And so the one thing that people do not realize about an aircraft charter company is the level of regulatory scrutiny that you're put through. The FAA really doesn't care how much it costs to run a charter operation. They want the paying public to be every bit as safe as when you go and buy a ticket and fly on United or American. And so we are held to a very, very high standard. So it took me a year-long process just to get the helicopter alone proved to actually be able to, advertise a service that paying customers would pay for. And then that was successful and fun. So then when I bought the turboprop that I'm sitting in right now, the King Air, that was. Go ahead.
I sat in that plane and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Remember, so you had to pull me out, Ted. I started crying and refused to get out of the plane. Remember?
Well, we're going to take you somewhere in it sometime, but yeah. So then I spent another half a year adding this plane that I'm sitting in right now to the charter certificate, and then that was monumentally successful. I mean, I've just flown the whole range of paying customers in this, ranging from politicians to Fortune 500 CEOs to some of the big names in the Lehigh Valley, but then a lot of more modest people that need the benefits of being able to fly privately, to save time. As I was telling you last time we met, one of my clients refers to my aircraft as the time machines, because successful people can use their resources to have lots of help and do great things. But the one thing they can't create more of is time. And business travel, personal travel, can be extremely time consuming. If you're trying to go from here to, a remote place in central Michigan for a business deal, you could spend a whole day getting to central Michigan, no matter how you do it. And then another whole day getting home. And, for people that are successful and busy, they don't have 2 days on each side to do that. So, there's just so many great case studies, customers of mine that have wonderful stories about how chartering, even though it's expensive by definition, because, you're operating 7-figure machines that like to drink lots of jet fuel, et cetera. But like this King Air can carry up to 7 passengers. And, if you're looking at the time it can save you, well, if you take 5-6 people, and look at the cost of a first class airline ticket to a particular destination, and you can save a day of all their times, well, all of a sudden it's not that expensive. And so a lot of people, both in business and personally, can justify these aircraft.
Ed, so we can help people, because I know that's not your nature, and you're you're not a bragging kind of guy, but you've been successful as an entrepreneur twice. What do you think are the magics to getting there? I mean, I think when I look at you, I think of energy. And, some people just have it, and you have that energy. But to someone that I know, for me, I often feel like you got to give business a couple years, and once they start rolling, you can have a pretty good run. But anyway, your thoughts on someone who says, "Boy, I wish I could beat Ted."
Well, I would say that doing things that you enjoy, so that work doesn't feel like work, is so if you're doing something just because you think there's money in that, but you don't genuinely enjoy it, it's a road to nowhere. But when I started my software company, I mean, I loved writing computer software more than anything at the time. And it would consume me from morning to night. I had a passion for it. And when we hired our early employees, I wouldn't, it was fine if somebody had a computer science degree or took X, Y, and Z, did X, Y, and Z coursework. But in interviews, I would always look for the people that did stuff with computers and software as a hobby. If it was something that they enjoyed so deeply that they spent their personal time doing it, well, now there's somebody that is going to work hard. And I've tried to apply that myself. And of course, piloting, I mean, it's an absolute joy to pilot these aircraft. And it's a lot of work, but it doesn't feel like work. And I put up with a lot of regulatory scrutiny and a lot of FAA audits and paperwork and drug programs and you name it. But at the end of the day, I'm doing something I love, and everybody leaves the aircraft smiling. So, so I would say, just do what you love and pursue it with all your passion and all your energy. And success will find its way into your life.
And I think they leave it smiling because of the aircraft and because of you. You do have an amazing personality. I know this certainly does not define you, and I don't think you ever meant it to be, but I think that you have had a wonderful run professionally and personally. You've had a wonderful relationship and marriage to Kevin. And I think that the LGBT community and our diversity initiatives at the Chamber are something that's very important to us going forward. And your thoughts on the strides that the community has made, the LGBT community, and the acceptance level when you started and where we are today.
Yeah, well, it's a big subject, but I mean, I realized I was gay when I was probably 21, 22, and I was working at Air Products at the time. I actually, out of the University of Pennsylvania, I had my first job at Air Products, and that's where I met Jim Gardner, my first business partner, and the two of us left together to start Target Software. But around that time I was just struggling, and got some counseling and figured out that this was the truth about me. And the toughest thing about being gay is if you're in the closet and hiding. It's no way to live. You're living a lie, and it's just like, it's not, all of us have to lie about certain things or exaggerate certain things in our life, and it's a major source of stress. So the coming out process is extremely important, because then you're not lying about anything, and the truth is always easier than a lie. And so I had the good fortune of meeting Kevin when I was 23 or 24, long time ago, like 27 years ago.
And when it was harder way to come out, right? And when it was a harder time to come out, Ted.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the Stonewall down on 10th Street and 10th and Linden in Allentown. I mean, that was the gay bar at the time. And I remember just, finding a dark alley to park in and sneaking in there at night, and, having the fear of God that any of my colleagues at Air Products would, see me going in there. And, at first I wasn't out with my parents. I was one of the fortunate ones that my parents and my two sisters and brother all have been terrific about it. But there was a time when, when one had to hide from it. And there was always a concern when I started my business, even after I was out personally, there was always a concern that I'd lose a deal or something if, the wrong prospective customer would find out. But I have to say, I would say, actually, the fact that many people know this about me has actually earned me business over time, because when someone is able to be honest about themselves, business is all about trust and honesty. So, if somebody knows that's my story, and, they trust me. Yeah. And in the case of the aircraft business, they're trusting me with their lives. So, I think it's been a net benefit over time. And I've seen the world progress amazingly. Never did I think I could be married, nor did I want to be early on. And it took me a long time to, refer to Kevin as anything other than my friend, or my mother would call him my special friend. And yeah, but then it was partner. And then on our 10th anniversary, we ran off to Vermont and got a civil union. That was the best you could do by 2004. And then by 2014, marriage became the law of the land. And so we got married, and now we have a child, which is another miracle that I never thought would be possible. He's at the Swain School. He's going to be turning 11 shortly. Straight A student, wonderful kid, the light of our lives. And I think what's so interesting is how unbelievably normal our lives seem to, we're just living life as a married couple with a child. And in many ways, we relate more to our straight friends with kids than other gay people, because we're just kind of living that life. That's the model that works for us.
That's a beautiful story, Ted. Really, that's incredible. I could ask you a million more questions. Our time is short. I'm going to bring Lauren on because she's got the young person perspective, as she calls it. I have a couple questions for you, Ted.
Thanks, Tony. I'm 100% with you, Ted. I could listen to your story forever, your personal story, your professional story. It's been such a joy being part of this conversation. So thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I do have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So you called yourself a serial entrepreneur and talked about how you found professional success from a very young age. What advice do you have for today's young entrepreneurs?
Well, I would say, definitely, as I said, reinforcing what I said earlier, just get involved in something that doesn't feel like work to be doing, but work your butt off at it. But pick something that you have a personal interest in, because then the hard work that it takes to be successful isn't painful. It just feels more like an exciting part of the journey. So you got to do something you have a passion for. So if you love music, you'll find a way to be successful in music. If you love writing, well, then there are paths to incredible success as a writer, but you got to put your all into it. Don't pick something because you think there's money in it. Pick something because you're passionate about it and you're going to try to be the best you can be in that.
It's a great point.
I love it. You work in such a unique and an exciting industry. Do you have any mentors in your professional life, or have you had any mentors?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Well, my father owned a business that actually was 3 generations. He was the 3rd generation of an agricultural business in Quakertown. And what I learned from my dad was that hard work can make up for a lot of deficiencies in other areas. My father was not an educated man. He had a high school diploma and everything, but he was very successful because he put in the work. And the other thing that I learned what him is how to be a good boss. And a good boss, delegates, but is also perfectly willing to get down in the trenches and do the hard work of the business too. Those leaders end up, more respected than those that are just in their ivory tower and never come out. So I didn't mean to diverge from your question there, but that came to mind. And, to reinforce that, I'm sorry to break off, but just yesterday, I have a very good helicopter client, and we had the big snowstorm yesterday, and he oversees the snow removal from dozens and dozens of these huge distribution centers around the area. So he hires the helicopter during events like in the immediate aftermath of events like yesterday, so that he can go out and visit 20 or 30 of these sites to supervise what his crews are doing. And so it's an amazing use of the helicopter. And of course, his customers appreciate that, wow, the big boss is all over every site. Well, yesterday, something wasn't going right. One of the supervisors called out sick. And uh, and so we were circling the helicopter. He was on the radio saying, and the customer was not too happy about the situation. So he's like, land now. And so I landed the helicopter at the distribution center. Don't tell anybody. and he hopped out and he's like, just go to a local airport. I'll call you. And it turns out he worked for 6 hours. He got in the machine himself and did the job that the supervisor was going to do just so that the customer would be satisfied. And, that's the way you've got to be if you're going to be the boss. The boss has to be willing to do any job to make the customer happy.
What a great example. And I mean, if that's the characteristic of a good boss, being in the trenches, Tony's definitely a good boss. Definitely makes the cut.
Our trenches are pretty nice, I have to say. Well, let me just say this before we lose you, Ted. We're over time because you're amazing. You're an incredible person. You've got an incredible story, business, family. Your home is amazing, even. And I'm so glad that we got to know you, and we'll continue to get to know you and hang around with you, Ted. I want to thank you so much. Your advice is amazing. Ted, do you have any one last parting, maybe quick minute or two, last parting thoughts that you could close it for people who are watching?
Well, I should give a pitch for my business.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to do that, but you'll do a better job of it.
So, Vertiview is the time machine of the Lehigh Valley. We operate small, efficient aircraft that it's always expensive, but it's justifiable for many people personally and in business. We have dozens of clients with, homes in places like Nantucket. And, in many cases, they have substantial investments in their homes there. Well, we allow, on a Friday night, those families can hop in the plane and be there in 40, 45 minutes, enjoy the whole weekend, and then Sunday night be whisked back to the Lehigh Valley and be at their desk in the morning rather than enduring, a 9-hour drive and waiting for a ferry. All the transportation is collapsed into, an hour each way. So that's a great option to be able to offer people. And in the COVID, era, which knock on wood is hopefully coming to an end, it's also a way to ensure more safety. I've had a lot of customers start using Vertiview just as a result of COVID and just being concerned, about traveling on the airlines right now. But after they do it, they're like, you know what? I'm successful. This is something I'm going to continue to treat myself to, even after COVID is in the dustbin of history. So think about it, and I'm happy to help you out if you need to get somewhere fast and efficiently and hassle-free.
Ted, I can tell you my comment on Vertiview is you'll love the equipment and you'll love the pilot. You're a good guy. It's not only equipment, but you too. You're just a good person to be around and very confident. So you're with the right person, going the right place. Lauren Spence, why don't you close us out? And again, thank you so much. It's all yours, Lauren.
Gladly. Thanks, Tony. And thank you again, Ted, for joining us today and for being such a great partner of the Chamber. It's been a pleasure talking with you and learning more about the history of Vertiview Air Charters. You really are changing the game for our community. To our viewers at home, we hope you enjoyed this installment of Game Changers, and we look forward to connecting with you next time. Stay tuned on the Chamber's social media pages for our next episode. We'll see you then.